Hi everyone, my name is Justin, aka Ghost Reader, and today I am going to be doing a review of The Thing Around Your Neck by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. And so hopefully this will be my first book review that I put up. Like I've said in the past, I've done book reviews and just trashed them because I thought they were absolute trash. So hopefully this one will be successful. I'll like it during the editing process, and it will go up sometime either late April, early May. Definitely after I finish reading the book, and which I have done. And so this book is written by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I've read Americana by her last year, which was simply an amazing book. One of my favorite reads, was also on my top 10 all favorites of all time. And it in this book, she is basically talking about it's a series of short stories. So unlike Americana, which is a one long novel, this actually has a series of short stories. And so I actually read this as part of David the Optimist's book club, and we're reading this for the month of April, and we're going to discuss it, I think, on the 28th of this month. We're going to discuss the 20th of April. We're going to discuss it. And so yeah, so I read this as an audiobook, and which I most of the books in the month of April I'm reading them as. And must I say that reading a book via audiobook is a totally different experience, at least for me, than reading it in book form. Sometimes the book is better in my opinion, but sometimes the narration provided by the narrative audiobook can take a book that would have been even if it was great already, makes it even better. And especially the narrator for this book, actually, she did all the voices for the characters in each of the stories, and it made it sound really authentic because she had a Nigerian accent for the Nigerian characters, and she really captured like the essence of the characters in each of these stories. And so the this book, like I said, is it's a series of short stories that looks at life of people in Nigeria, and also lives of people who come to the United States, as of Nigerians that come to the United States as immigrants. So similar to Americana, she kind of explores that in this book as well. Some of the characters of her short stories do come to the United States, and in this book, it kind of deals with and kind of in the way it kind of dealt with in Americana, like kind of the disappointment that some people meet once they come here to America, the culture shock that happens, and just trying to get to know sometimes the culture better, but also if they have a partner here beforehand, trying to get to know them better because in one of the stories, the woman's is already here, and her husband has gone back and is living in Nigeria, and she has to come to the fact, well, has to come to terms with the fact that he may be seeing someone back home, and that there may be a reason why she's still left here in America with the kids. One is coming to America. Was coming to America to join her husband, and realizes she doesn't really know him anymore because he's changed since she's been here. And another comes, and she is kind of like a mail order bride. So they have an organized marriage. They get married in Nigeria. He brings her back here, but she really doesn't know him. So she's trying to learn about him, but also about the culture as well. So for a lot of the ones with the immigrant experience is kind of looked at, you see that the women in these stories are not only learning about themselves, but they're kind of also trying to figure out, while trying to also, whether they're trying to figure out their partners, but also trying to figure out how they fit into the new American culture. And each of them have to come to terms with the fact that it's different from home. And sometimes that change is thrust on them. So, for example, the male of the bride, her husband is constantly like, "You have to change who you are. You have to change who you are." For the woman who's here and her husband is back in Nigeria, she feels that she has become an imitation of what an American wife should be. And so you have kind of like this clash between who they are and who they're expected to be. And there's this fear that they could become mere imitations of what is suspected of what an American is, and then lose their Nigerianness. So that's kind of explored in this book. Another thing that's explored in this book is life in Nigeria itself. It does not shy away from looking at um, called like corruption in the police in Nigeria, the dynamics between the North and South. So similar to the United States, where we kind of had like we have like this different cultural difference between North and South. The same is in Nigeria. The North is mainly Muslim, and is kind of poor, while the South is more well-to-do and is Christian. So there are cultural differences there, and these cultural differences can sometimes break out into violence. And there's one story in which a girl is caught up in a riot in the marketplace, and she ends up sheltering with a woman from the North of Nigeria, and you get to see that cultural dynamic in play. Breaking down expectations of what she expects a northerner to be, and kind of also learning a bit more about herself in that process. You kind of see the scars in a different story. You see the scars that are left behind by the Nigerian Civil War or the Biafran War, which was from 1967 to 1970. That's explored in one story where a man meets someone that he thought died in that war, which is kind of like a ghost. Well, he to him it's a ghost of the past because he thought the man was dead, but the scars from that still exist. And then in the last story in this book, there's also there's also the scars that are kind of left by colonization as well. That's also explored in the last story. And I thought the last story I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but the last story in this book was probably one of the best of the collection. One generation is stuck in their ways, wants to keep their culture close to them. The next generation is like totally disregards that, but the generation after that re-embraces it. And so I thought she did this really well. She does a really good job in all these stories of really fleshing out these characters in these short stories. Every story that you read, you're left wanting more. So each of these stories feels like either a part of like a novel or like the start to one. And so like when you come to the end, a lot of them you're like, but I want more. When you get to the end, it's like, but how, like, you kind of know where the story's gonna go, but you're still like, oh, if only I could get if I could get more, I want to see what happens. And I think she does a really good job of kind of hooking in the reader, so that by the time you get to the end of each of these stories, you want more. And so she does a really good job at bringing you in and making you really sympathize with each of these characters, and especially like one where a woman she's come over to the United States, and she is working for someone, and she wants their affection, and then seeing her get disappointed by that, you kind of feel really sorry for her, but you kind of want to see like what's the next steps for her. So Adichie does a really good job at making you feel really sympathetic for these characters. And she's there's some really good humor in this book. Like the stories are all different types of ranges as well. So you have some that are like really sad. You have some that have like some really good humor in them. You have some that are really serious, some that are more light. So they're all different types of story in here. And I think that if you read this book, that you would enjoy it too. So I think she does a really good job looking at what life is like in Nigeria, what the immigrant experience is like, what it's like to go to a different culture, and what are the pros and cons of assimilation, and the different ways in which people deal with that, and also how people deal with the trauma that exists within their own communities back home in their own country, which in this case is Nigeria. So I would recommend for all of you to read this book. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm definitely if I get the chance to read more Adichie, I definitely will be doing that. I haven't been disappointed by her so far. 2 out of 2 have been really good. So I would really encourage you to pick up The Thing Around Your Neck if you get the chance. If since this is my first review, let me know how I did down in the comment sections below. I think I probably did terrible, but you guys will let me know down in the comment section below. I believe there's only like up from here, so my reviews can only get better. So if you like this video, please hit the like button. If you want to see more videos from me, please subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at GhostReach28 and also on Goodreads. The link to that is down in the description box below. So as always, keep reading.